We're going to be talking about Trump and the 14th Amendment. If you'll give me a moment to go live on TikTok in 3, 2, 1. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy, Tim, the handsome liberal. Today, we're going to be continuing what appears to be an ongoing saga. Most likely, at least until the Supreme Court rules on this matter, which is expected to be done in the early part of next month, sometime January 5th, really right after New Year's. The Supreme Court is expected to rule on this matter. So it's going to be literally top news until that point. For the simple fact that this ruling has a huge implication in regards to the direction of America. Now, overwhelming majority of folks that are analyzing this, I'm talking to political talking heads on the Sunday shows, the political talking heads on the cable news networks, even folks doing podcasts. The overwhelming opinion is that the Supreme Court is going to throw out what Colorado did. However, there is no such thing as a 0% chance. So we do have to understand that, just like with Roe v. Wade, how many folks this time 2-3 years ago felt confident, and I'm talking about my beloved MAGA, folks even on the right, were absolutely confident there was no way in hell Roe v. Wade would ever be overturned. Even folks on the right were saying that. You Democrats are fear-mongering. You liberals are just trying to say this to prevent Republican rule. You're just making this up. And now look where we're at. So the idea that the Supreme Court is for certain going to do what we think, there's no 100% guarantee on anything. Remember Trump suggesting that the 2020 election was stolen. How many folks felt confident? 6-3 majority, 3 of them being appointed by President Trump, that when his election claims were going to go before the Supreme Court, they were going to rule in his favor. They didn't even listen to his case, did not even take his case. And I will also add that Trump had a hell of a lot of choice words for the Supreme Court after they did not rule in his favor. Called them cowards, spineless. Wasn't just talking about Sotomayor or the liberals on the Supreme Court. He talked about them as a whole because there were, I think Chief Justice Roberts also was a dissenting opinion in regards to President Trump. So even though everyone expects the Supreme Court to shoot down what Colorado did, we're going to start out the conversation by saying there's no guarantee of that. There's absolutely no guarantee of that. So what we're actually talking about today, though, is did he violate the 14th Amendment at all? Is this just some kind of Colorado liberal Supreme Court judge's fantasy? 4 in favor, 3 dissenting. This is what happened at Colorado, the Colorado Supreme Court. Or is there a potential that they actually have a legitimate reason to suggest he violated or he's in violation of the 14th Amendment? What I want to give you is the actual text from Congress.gov. This is the provision of the 14th Amendment that they're suggesting Trump violated. And I want to give you some takes on different pieces of it because of the wording. Now, keep in mind, the lower court judge, the one that originally threw out the effort to take Trump off the Colorado ballot, was a female judge. She did not side with those that wanted to remove Trump from the ballot, but in her opinion, stated that, yeah, he is guilty of insurrection, but the wording of the 14th Amendment says it doesn't say it applies to the president. And she believed at the time that only Congress could do it. But even their lower court judge did believe that Trump was in violation of the 14th Amendment. It's in her own filing. Now, the Supreme Court judges also believed that Trump violated the 14th Amendment. They just disagree with the lower court judge in regards to it doesn't apply to the president in his wording. And therefore, that's where we're here, where we are now. Tap the screen, by the way. I don't know what's going on with TikTok. We got around a little bit less than 100 people. That's way off, way off. I don't know what's going on with the app, but I do appreciate if you folks tap the screen. On YouTube, that would set a bad precedent, but Colorado, the virtuous white liberal capital of the country, so it doesn't matter if he's on their ballot. Well, it would set a precedent. But when it comes to President Trump, 2 impeachments, that set a precedent. He's had his home raided, that set a precedent. I mean, he's facing 91 federal charges. He actually has a mugshot. At this point, there are so many things that has happened to President Trump that we all would have said would never happen to a president, that one more precedent doesn't really say much. He is constantly breaking history, setting precedents, starting with the election with stolen claims or trying to protest the transition of power. I'm not going to say insurrection. I'll say he started a protest. All of that is setting a precedent. So the more, the merrier. But here is the wording, congress.gov, the particular article of the 14th Amendment describing what you can't do, and then we'll talk about if Trump is guilty of actually doing it. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given and or comfort to the enemies thereof. And it concludes by saying, but Congress may by a vote of 2/3 of each house remove such a disability. Appreciate you folks tapping the screen. Get your boy likes up to around 5,000. I think the numbers are getting better. TikTok has something going on, but it likely will remove that with you tapping the screen. So I do appreciate that. Program is always will be MAGA friendly. So this should get to be interesting with this 14th Amendment conversation. But let's break down the wording of it, because many folks are suggesting that there is no way in hell he should be accused of violating the 14th Amendment when he hasn't even been charged with a crime, hasn't never even been charged with it. 2 issues to start out with. Number one, there is nowhere in this text that suggests you actually have to be charged with insurrection before you violate it. Nowhere in here does it use the word convicted or even charged. So you can easily judge this to state you can commit this crime without being charged or convicted with it, or commit this violation without being charged or convicted of it, depending on what justice you get, leaning right, leaning left. But there is no actual wording in here that says you need to be charged and convicted with insurrection before you violate this. So keep that in mind. Second, towards the end, it uses this is the actual wording of it. Shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Here is the issue with that. Given comfort to the enemies, aided or comfort to the enemies thereof. Even though Trump has not been charged with insurrection or sedition, we know there are people in jail that has. Leader of the Proud Boys, leader of the Oath Keepers. If you give aid or comfort to those people, according to this text, you violate this. Trump has already made it clear he is at the very least going to consider pardoning folks. Those folks are in jail for a lot of this stuff that's in this text. And he's made it clear he's going to aid and comfort them. He's made a song with them. He's spoken positively of them over and over again. Does that violate the 14th Amendment? The aid and comfort, the enemy thereof. Does it violate it at all? Once again, Depends on how you lean as a justice. But he certainly has certainly indicated he might be willing to aid and comfort these people by giving them a pardon for sedition. Trump hasn't been charged with sedition. They have. And he's made it clear that he might aid or comfort them. Not to mention making a song with them, having rallies, and speaking positively of them. I'll let you decide. So, do you see any reason where an open-minded justice may actually say he violated this? Going straight to the box, Boone says it's a pipe dream. You're not the only one that says that. Razor Buzz, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. 14th Amendment violation, what say you?
Well, first of all, I think we should think about the impeachment that he had and understand the meaning of impeachment. You see, an impeachment is like a court. The evidence is given to the House, and then House votes whether the person is guilty or not.
True.
If they are guilty, they are sent to the Senate to decide about the punishment. Okay?
Okay.
His second impeachment was about the insurrection.
Okay.
Therefore,
wait, hold on. The House voted him guilty. The Senate didn't even. What is it? The Senate voted him not guilty, right? I think Mitt Romney and one other, but
that's not it. No. The Senate does not decide about the guilt. The Senate makes a decision whether to remove him for that guilt or not.
Okay, and they obviously didn't do that.
The guilt was already proven in the House, and the House voted and said, yes, sir, you're guilty of this. Send it to the Senate, and Senate will decide whether to remove you or not. Basically decides your sentence.
Okay.
One is the court, the other one is the sentencing. Now, some people don't consider that because the House and the Senate are not the part of the judiciary.
And it's interesting you mentioned that because that's part of what's going to be coming up before the Supreme Court in Jack Smith's proposal is that does those impeachments give him double jeopardy protection? That is what there's a bunch of things they got to rule on Trump because now we got this 14th Amendment stuff, but that is another one that's coming up is that Jack Smith wants them to tell him is he wants to know if there is immunity because Trump is also claiming he was immune from doing anything while president. And then what you're talking about, if he's been impeached and he survived the impeachment, can you federally charge him again? So that's coming up.
Okay, first of all, the House is not part of the judiciary. Therefore, some legal expert has to decide whether that's considered a judiciary's conviction, okay? However, proof was given in the House. And as far as the double jeopardy is concerned, again, a legal expert has to give an opinion.
Right.
My opinion wouldn't count, and I don't even...
But what is even though it doesn't count, what is your opinion? Do you think he violated the 14th Amendment like Congress?
Have you heard the old saying, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and looks like a duck, how are you going to say it's not a duck?
Yeah, my baby mama said that when she caught me coming in the house late. I get it. So
if it's opinion you are asking for, yes, in my opinion, he's guilty as sin. But my opinion is 1/350 millionth of the country.
Right.
It is the judiciary's job, and we have to have faith in them. Just like when he was first elected, even though I knew what kind of a person he is, I said, okay, he's our president, we have to support him. Then he lost my secondary support by doing all the things that he did. Okay? But that's only 350 millionth of the country. So that only counts as far as my vote counts. However, I have always wondered, why are his supporters so loyal to him?
Well,
And
go ahead.
yes,
I was just going to say they believe he has a far better direction for this country than what his opposition, like Biden, is offering.
maybe 100,000 kind of people who cannot think, but the rest can think. Okay, and they have a reason, in my opinion, that they support him. The reason is, I believe that the conservative way of thinking is slowly losing support in the country. And it will be soon, the newer and newer generations coming in are going to be very liberal about, for example, abortion. They're going to be very liberal about the gay community.
You think they're very liberal about the border issues that's going on right now, or you think they agree more with the conservative side that we need to?
Strong. Okay, your question I'll answer. They don't know. The younger generation has no idea what's going on down there. I'm talking about 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds that soon will be voting. Okay? They don't pay attention to those things. Not really. A small percentage does.
So you don't think the younger crowd has any opinion at all on whether we should have a secure border or not?
Okay, let's put it this way. They may have an opinion, but not strong enough to change their opinion about the president they want or the congressman they want. It's like, but I have a different take on the border.
Give it to me.
I want to know how many of, what percentage of our population is dreaming about their children becoming fruit pickers?
Virtually none. None.
So, if it comes to a point where we blocked it completely, and as Mr. Trump said, he deports all these South and Central American hardworking people, truly hardworking. I mean, I have seen it with my own eyes. I've done construction, okay? Out of the country. Then you're going to go to the grocery store to buy a pound of plums and pay $25 for it. Because they have to pay that kind of money in the farm to raise it, to bring it, and to pick it, and to get it to the
I don't know. I don't know, Razor. I do got to move it on, but I will tell you this. There was a time in America where we did not have a huge immigration issue, border issue, and people still got their hands on plums. I just think that eventually if you got to pay a few more bucks, like right now, they're paying burger flippers a decent wage. Burgers cost more when you go to McDonald's or you go to Wendy's. You're paying more. People still eating. I'm fine paying the worker more and paying a little bit more for the product. I'm fine with that, as opposed to hiring folks from other countries to keep wages down. Because when you keep the wages down for the guy picking fruit or the guy flipping burgers, it translates to keeping wages down for us all. You disagree with that?
I kind of do, because there's very small percentage of our population that is willing to do those works. Okay? And you take a look at the housing prices, and then look at the price that the South and Central American workers are charging. I was in house flipping. I used to manage a company that flips houses too. I have had many jobs in this world. And the prices are incredibly different. You won't be able to afford your home, or if you afford it, you'll have much larger payments for them. And these kinds of jobs are not the kinds of jobs that 99% of Americans, now 99 is a silly number, but a large percent of Americans will not do.
Well, you're not the only one to say it. I do got to move it on. I tend to disagree. I'll talk about it on the other side. But anytime, Razor Buzz, our first time talking?
No, it's not. It's our third time.
Did you have a different name?
No, Razor Buzz.
I don't remember. All right, my apologies. I do appreciate you coming on, though. My apologies. I'm getting, okay. I'm getting old. Come on back anytime. All right, now, real quick, just to respond to what my last caller was saying. You know, we immigrants will do jobs no Americans want. My humble opinion is that's hogwash. I'll tell you why. If you were to dial your local plumber, I got a ton of shit stuck in my septic tank. Could you send me a plumber out here to fix it? They will send you a plumber out to your house that will put on knee-high boots or whatever uniform they need, climb in a well full of shit, and clean out your septic tank. But Americans won't pick fruit. You know why? Because that plumber is getting paid a decent wage. If the fruit pickers were paid a decent wage, you would find plenty of Americans willing to pick fruit. There's a lot of Americans. You seen Mike Rowe, Discovery Channel, Dirty Jobs? You think picking fruit is the worst thing you could do for employment? Pay the people, they'll do anything you want. 14th Amendment is what we're talking about. Did Trump violate the 14th Amendment? I see the comments. Crane said, I'll pick fruit. Damn right. Damn right. And I'll give you a personal story of myself. When I grew up as a child, poor kid on the south side of Chicago, I used to collect bottles and cans. You actually made decent money back then recycling glass and aluminum. Spit, piss, you name it, were in those products. But I was making decent money. That's my own personal story. I would have picked fruit in a heartbeat. But when you pay $2 per hour to a full-grown adult, yeah, now it's hard to find people. Going back to the box, one bad bull. 0713. All right, let's make it happen. Real quick in the comment section. Hang on a second, real quick. You run a fair guy. What is it? You run a fair guy with your forum. A likable guy, but as I stated yesterday, you see things through leftist eyes, so you refuse to see it objectively. Well, I do believe I try to run a fair program. Okay, I lean left, fair enough. Most of my guests lean right, but we try to run a fair program. And if that's what you enjoy, subscribe to the page or, as we say, follow on TikTok. One bad bull. Did the former president, do you see where he may have violated the 14th Amendment in any way, fashion, or form?
No, I did not. I don't see him. I think this is a farce. It's been a farce. You know that they've been hunting him for the last 7 years, trying to get him out the picture. And they found something. They think it's going to stick, and the Supreme Court's going to overrule it.
Yeah, most analysts agree with you, but as I said at the top of the program, and I do appreciate you folks tapping the screen, you've gotten the numbers up over 500. Definitely keep doing that. Maybe we can get up to 1,000. I do appreciate it. In regards to the Supreme Court overruling Colorado's challenge to Trump, I've said this earlier, that 2 years ago, we thought the Supreme Court would never roll back Roe v. Wade. When the election happened, most folks thought the Supreme Court with 3 people appointed by Trump was going to side with Trump that the election was stolen. They didn't even take his case. Point I'm making is, even though it may appear the Supreme Court may do something, that's not necessarily true. And keep in mind, Trump has said some really bad stuff about the Supreme Court when they didn't rule in his favor. He called them cowards and spineless. So understand, sometimes judges take that personal. You think it's a sure thing that they're going to rule in his favor next month? You're really breaking up. Can you hear me? I don't want to cut you, but the signal is so bad. There's just no interpretation. I'm gonna have to move it on. I really hated to have to cut them, but there's no way we could communicate. Looking in the comments, yes, same way they did Al Capone. He's a criminal and can't buy his way out anymore. Are we talking about Trump or Rudolph Giuliani? Rudolph Giuliani is really in that situation. Trump can, for the most part, get unlimited donor funds. So I don't know if Trump could ever be in a situation, at least right now, where he can't buy his way, financially hire lawyers and things like that. But Giuliani, Mike Lindell, some of them folks, maybe. How can anyone say Trump didn't cause January 6th? Well, the statement is you can't control what full-grown adults do. Folks are suggesting that Trump said go peacefully, and they just decided to be assholes. That is what folks are suggesting. If Trump gets it, then Biden should be there as well. Crane Guy. I'll go back to the box, but before I do, just in response to that question, if Trump gets blocked, so should Biden. I'm going to tell you flat out, most liberals will see that as a win. I hate to say it that way, and I'm trying to be as centrist as possible for my guy on YouTube, but there's not a lot of love for Biden among liberals. I strongly believe there's far more hatred to Trump from liberals than there is love for Biden. If the liberals have to sacrifice Biden to stop Trump, I don't think that would be much of a trade for most liberals. I think they would happily accept that. So if you want to say, well, Biden should get it too, I don't think the liberals would have a problem with that at all. They would probably consider it a win. And I see the comments. Brittany says, yes, exactly. Vic Perez says, fact. Crane Guy, you even said this right. Trump lost the white vote. The hell he hasn't. That is patently false. Going back to the box, now the women's vote, different story. Going back to the box, sorry to my last caller, we couldn't communicate. We're talking about the 14th Amendment. PT, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, but something's wrong. I don't see the box or anything on there. But, well, we can.
I don't see it either.
Yeah, can you folks actually hear us? Let me know if you guys can hear us. If it's working, we'll go with it. What do you think about Kennedy? I think Kennedy has no chance. I'm trying to see if anybody can. Okay, they can hear us. All right, so do you see any possibility where Trump may have violated the 14th Amendment at all?
I don't think there's any question about it at all. I mean, every one of us sat here on January 6th and watched that Capitol get overrun with people carrying Trump flags. They wouldn't have been there had it not been for him lying about the election. That's the whole reason they were there. He's been lying to the American people. He still continues to do it today. That's the reason those people were there. They believed him. They believed the election was stolen. We all know now that was a bunch of bullshit. And that's why those people were there. And he sat there for 3 hours while they were attacking that Capitol, and he knew what was going on. I just don't see how there's any question anybody can say that he didn't cause what happened that day.
Well, but did he participate in it, though? I mean, you can't control what idiots do. If I have a riot, if I have a protest in front of a police station and I talk about how they wrongfully arrested me and folks start trashing the police station and setting it on fire, am I responsible for that?
Yeah, but Handsome, let me ask you something. Why were those people there that day?
Because I told them they arrested me improperly. That's what they're there for. I told them to come.
Yeah, but you're acting like you're Trump right now. You're playing the part of Trump. So
That's what
you're
I'm
basically
doing.
admitting they were there because of him. He is the central character in this entire thing. There's no question about it. Now, I know the Republicans, they're going to deny, say he didn't do anything at all. He's never done anything wrong. He wouldn't. Look, all of these judges that ruled against him, the Republican judges, the people from his own party are blaming him, and all of the senior leaders from the Republican Party, when that Congress went back in session later that day, said Trump was responsible for what happened that day.
I'm hearing your points, but I'm obviously playing devil's advocate. But I'm saying that if I was to tell people, let's go down to the police station and protest what they did to me, and they start acting a fool, do I get blamed for it because I was the one that told them to come down here?
Did Charles Manson kill anybody?
No, he did not.
But did he go to jail for the murders that took place in California?
And he died there.
Right. And what about Osama bin Laden? Did he attack the World Trade Center?
I believe he funded it, though. I mean, I think that now if Trump paid for people's bus tickets and all, I believe Osama funded. That's a bad slip. But I do believe bin Laden did a little bit more than just sparked it. I think he funded it and things like that.
Yeah, but he wasn't the one flying the planes. It was people that were doing it for him, right? And in this case, like for weeks ahead of time, Trump was out there saying this election was stolen. He was riling up his base. Everybody knew this was going to happen. If you were on TikTok, I think TikTok was covering it better. People on TikTok were more informed than our own leaders were, right? Anybody that was on here, people talking, let's go. We're all going to D.C. on January 6th, and we're going to storm the Capitol, and they show up in riot gear, and and then we saw what happened. They busted in that place, and had some of those elected officials been in there at the time and not been removed from the building, some of them probably would have got killed that day.
Yeah.
And listen, you just have to keep. Like I was said in the comments earlier, Trump has committed so many friggin' crimes now. People can't even keep it straight anymore. It's almost become an everyday thing that people are becoming dumb and immune to it because it's been in our face for so long. And if you just ask yourself one simple question: why were they there? Who were they there for? Who called them there? Who told them to go to the Capitol? Trump is the one. Like, who has been held accountable for January 6th till today? The people that were in the building, yeah, but who's the kingpin of the whole thing? It's him.
What,
right?
what about some who might say it's Steve? What about some who might say it's Steve Bannon or Flynn or one of them was the kingpin of it?
Yeah, but who were they acting on behalf of?
It could be acting on behalf of Trump, but that don't mean Trump ordered them to do it. You got to show that link.
Look, he said fight. He said peacefully, but he also said fight like hell. Rudy Giuliani sat there, Trump's lawyer, and said we're going to have trial by combat.
Yeah.
You can't mistake that as some euphemism or some play on words. He knew those people were going there to break into that building, and Trump is the one that was behind all of it. There's no question about it. I know people are going to argue about it forever, but there's only one person that caused that to happen that day, and it's him.
Well, if you believe that, can you explain why Biden, who has caused no insurrection at all, is losing to Trump in a variety of polls? Are the polls just completely inaccurate? If Trump is as bad as you say he is, hell, even with minorities, his support is at least the same, if not growing. Why is such a bad man not doing so poorly in the polls?
Because I think the Democrats are horrible at advertising some of the good things that are being done under Biden, and Trump is an expert speaker. He's been out there doing these rallies for over a year now, right? Biden is really just starting to get into the campaigning phase for this next coming election because he's actually doing his job, not golfing 300 days a year, right? So Biden really and the Democrats need someone that can get out there and speak better about what they're doing. Trump's out there doing it every day. He's out there riling up his base, and he hits home with a lot of those people, right? But so I think that answers, that's my answer to your question about why he's doing well in the polls. But getting back to the
do you think, taking Trump out of the picture, do you think Biden is the right choice for 4 more years? We know he's 81 now. Do you think, taking Trump out as the lesser of two evils argument, I suppose we'd say, do you think Biden is a good choice going forward?
I would like to see someone younger in there, to be honest with you. I'll take him over Trump any day of the week, just because of the crap that Trump has done, like what we're talking about. But I would like to see a Democratic, some other Democrats step up. I think if Biden stepped down, we'd have people like, the California governor. He's a good speaker. He's out there saying stuff and getting people going too. So I personally, I'd like to see Trump and Biden both disappear and have 2 new people that get up there. Some of the other Republicans that are going to these, conventions now, Nikki Haley, Christie, some of the other ones, I don't have a whole lot of problem with some of them, to be
What
honest.
about Vivek? You be okay with Vivek?
Nah, I hate that guy.
All right. All right. And I only threw that out because you spoke so ill of Trump. Vivek is pretty much a clone, so I wanted to see what you said. Well, I'm okay with some of these other people. Let me throw a clone at him and see how he acts. But go ahead. I give you the last word.
No, I called you. I called you back on that one. I think Vivek, he's like too radical. He's got so many radical ideas, and he's denying all this other stuff. He's denying all the January 6th stuff. He, like you said, he's just Trump's ass kisser. That's all he is. He's trying to play off Trump's base and trying to get some of them to come vote for him. He honestly doesn't stand a chance. Probably Nikki Haley's probably the only one who has a chance of catching up to him. I don't think DeSantis does. Christie's too far to the right, calling out Trump's bullshit from the Republican side to get any of them votes. So, he'll get some, but I would like to see a Nikki Haley, DeSantis. I think he's a kind of a goon too, but I think there's some people there that would be decent leaders. But Vivek, no, and Trump definitely big no.
All right, appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and drop your side because you didn't appear in the box here, so otherwise I'd have to take down the whole damn live. So go ahead and drop out, but I appreciate you coming on. Anytime, come on back.
Roger that. Thanks, man. Have a good day.
Absolutely,
Merry
you
Christmas.
too. Appreciate it. And the same to you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas as well. And make sure I understand for all my folks on the right, I'm not trying to shut down the fucking holiday. Wait, War on Christmas. Shout out to Bill O'Reilly. Looking in the comments, Vivek is the man if Trump doesn't make it, says Rusky. Well, and that's what I said. I watched all 4 debates. I haven't heard of anything where Vivek differs from President Trump. It's literally a carbon copy of what Trump is offering. So I can understand why so many folks that support Trump are favorable to Vivek. Now, before I go back to the box, the problem I personally have with Vivek is him trying to raise the voting age. He came out and stated he wants to raise the voting age from 18 to 21 or 25 or something, unless you become a first responder. So from 18 to 21, you cannot vote unless you are either enlisted in the military or a police officer, fired, work for the fire department or something like that. I don't want anybody that's going to fuck with your voting rights. And he's came out and said that. So for me, that disqualifies him. But it does make sense for Vivek to say that. Appreciate that, Squirrel. Thank you for that TikTok cap. Got your boy looking spiffy. It makes sense because 18 to 21, they're not going to vote for Vivek. He has no love in that crowd. So it makes sense for him to try to demand they become first responders, because first responders are more likely to lean right. He's playing games, but he's doing it with your voting rights for those younger folks. Looking in the comments, I have a problem with Democrats telling who we are voting for. Robert, how is a Democrat telling you who you're voting for? I would love for you to elaborate on that. I don't quite get that statement. Clear it up for me and we'll talk about it. Republicans are trying everything to keep people from voting. The numbers are increasingly against something. I didn't see your rest of your comment cut off, but there are folks who believe that. Gerrymandering votes. You got these Republican states with Democratic cities within them, Cleveland, Houston, Atlanta, where you got these ridiculously long polling lines because the governors are passing laws to literally create bottlenecks at the polling places, likely in hopes that you'll just get tired of waiting so damn long to vote and go home. And it's happening predominantly in Democratic areas. So I do believe people are trying to make voting a little bit more challenging. Appreciate you for the subscription there, Fry Daddy. Thank you, subscriber. Shout out. Going back to the box, did President Trump, number 45, any chance he violated the 14th Amendment? Now, the program is always MAGA friendly. You understand, MAGA are my preferred guest. So we don't block, ban, or censor anyone. If you hear comments that you disagree with, frankly, nobody gives a damn. Neither do I. If you disagree with yours truly, we don't censor or limit anyone for their commentary. Free speech always reigns supreme here. Fry Daddy, appreciate the subscription. Come on down, as the late Bob Barker once said. Fry Daddy, 14th Amendment, what say you?
I had to turn that camera on and off real quick so don't kick me out for whatever reason.
No, you good. And I do appreciate that subscription. So, do you see any chance that Trump is in violation of the 14th?
Right. So, with that being said, that's not something that I really can say yes or no to. That's going to come down to how the courts interpret the 14th, because the problem that we're having is the Supreme Court had already came out previously and ruled that the president couldn't be an officer. So,
actually, wait. What do you mean by the president couldn't be an officer?
So there was two. I was just looking at this earlier. there was two Supreme Court rulings. It had something to do. Are you aware of Nora?
No, is this in Colorado?
I don't know, man.
Because let me just say this. Let me tell you the reason I asked that. Trump, the lower court in Colorado, because this obviously doesn't go right to the Supreme Court right away. There was a previous ruling in Colorado that allowed Trump to stay on the ballot. The folks trying to get him taken off the ballot lost. And the lower court judge said, yes, Trump did commit an act of insurrection, but that lower court judge interpreted it, the 14th Amendment, as not even referring to the president of the United States and suggested, well, Congress would have to do this. But she admitted, in her opinion, on the bench, that Trump did violate the 14th Amendment. Now, they continue climbing up the courts, and the Supreme Court agreed with the lower court that he violated the 14th Amendment, but disagreed with the lower court judge that it did not apply to the president. That's how we got where we are.
Right. So if it doesn't apply to him, how can he violate it?
Well, and that's what I'm saying. The Supreme Court thinks it does. The Colorado Supreme Court disagreed with the lower court judge and saying it doesn't apply to the president. They believe it does.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Honestly, whatever the Supreme Court says is what I'm not gonna disagree with the Supreme Court of the United States. So whenever they make a ruling on it, if they deem that he did, then me as a Trump supporter, I'm going to say, you know what? I trust in the system. If they're saying that he violated it, then he violated it, and that's my stance on that. It's I'm law enforcement myself. I'd be a hypocrite to think that the law only applies to a certain type of people.
What about the insurrection? Okay, well, the insurrection, but what about some of these other claims, like suggesting that he had classified documents in his possession that he didn't? If the courts ruled that he was guilty of that, would you honor that as well?
I do have an issue with that, though. I would, but I have an issue with that. And my issue with that would be, just to go back to the 14th real quick, and then I'll touch on that.
Sure.
What was I just going to say? Oh, so because the thing that's hard about the 14th and this being an insurrection and whatnot, a lot of people have already said it. You kind of made the statement yourself, but it's kind of hard to pin this on Trump and say that he forced these people to go do what they did on January 6th. The example that you gave about you being outside the police office, the police station, you tell everybody, hey, I was wrongfully arrested. They were being racist. They profiled me. That's the only reason I got arrested. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it's the same thing. You're accusing someone of doing something wrong
that they had no control. Well, let me follow it up. Let's continue on this path, because in this, at the beginning of the show, now we got 800 people here. We only had about 50 people. I actually read, which is on Congress.gov's website. This is not a pandering site. It's not left or right. It's Congress.gov. It tells you this provision of the 14th Amendment. And I actually read the whole thing, but I'll just give you a quick sentence that's in it, where it says, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Now, I agree with you. It can be challenging to charge Trump for something he had no control of the people doing. But in the 14th Amendment, it also says you're guilty of violation if you've given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Trump not only made a song with folks that have been charged and convicted of sedition, he's also talked about pardoning them. So we can debate that if Trump was responsible for what happened on that day, but the aid and comfort to folks who have been convicted of sedition, we have to discuss that. He's done a song with them and talked about if he becomes president, he would look into pardoning them. Is he aiding?
What song did he do with them? I'm lost. I don't recall it.
The January 6th choir, where he's doing the national anthem with them singing, with them doing the anthem, and he's kind of doing a talk over, and he's playing it at his rallies and all of that.
How is that aiding or comforting, though?
I don't know how much money the song is making, for instance. Are we to believe that they're not receiving any of that? He's also talking about if he becomes president, he would look into pardoning them. He's speaking incredibly.
Now, if he was to pardon them, I think you have a very valid argument. If he was to pardon them, because at that point he is aiding and or comforting. But like when I think of aiding and comforting, like I would think like, you know, they did this and then he tries to hide them or, you know, prevent justice from happening. You know what I'm saying?
Well, wait a minute. You say try to prevent justice from happening. I mean, we know for 3 hours while they were tearing up the Capitol, he did nothing. I mean, he blames it on Nancy Pelosi. She should have did. So he didn't come out and tell folks to even stop for like 3 hours. So regardless of who's responsible for what happened on that day, it's hard to show where Trump did anything to stop it from taking place. Would you at least agree with that?
Yeah, I think he could have acted quicker. I will say that. I think he could have acted quicker, but he also did request, and this was all through Congress and Senate. They've already had hearings on it. He did request the National Guard, and everyone says, well, no, he didn't, because if he did, he's a commander-in-chief. He could have had him come in. Well, he's a commander-in-chief of the military, but National Guard is
It's a state
like
thing.
state thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Why would he? But he stated it's a love fest. I love you. Go home. He still has yet to say what happened really was negative. If you felt that this was a peaceful protest, why are you requesting the National Guard to begin with? Are you expecting violence?
He did it in advance. He requested it.
Why? But why are you expecting? I mean, we had a 1 million man march. Farrakhan didn't even request the National Guard. Why are you requesting all this aid security? Are you expecting it not to be peaceful?
I mean, why are you getting insurance on your car? You never know when something's going to happen. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think, you know that for some reason politics had became so big in America. Before Trump, I don't think I ever even paid attention to politics.
I agree. I agree. A lot of folks. I mean, I did, but that's one. If it's one thing I really, really, really love about Trump is he's really energized the political energy in this country. Even if you don't like him, he's brought a lot more people to be interested in politics.
Right, and people have become so emotional. People have become so passionate about who they represent that it's unreal. I mean, just look at the amount of support Trump has. Who's the last president you can think of where a country was so supportive of who their president, or not the whole, I know the whole country's not, but you know what I'm saying?
The guy before him had all that support.
You think Obama was as popular and famous? Like, you think like he had that kind of loyal support like Trump does?
Now, there's a difference between support and undying loyalty. Now, the loyalty to Trump has never been rivaled. I mean, you got people talking about they'll take a bullet for him and crazy shit like. So no, I agree with you. I've seen folks are talking about they would vote for him even if he's convicted of crimes. No, I ain't never seen them like that before. I agree with that part.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think Trump changed politics, man. I think.
But why? Now listen, I understand. I'll let you continue. I hate to interrupt, but I'll let you continue. We know under Trump, folks favored the economy, the job numbers, and things like that. Folks like the fact that we didn't have a lot of military conflicts around the world and things like that. But what did he do that was so great that people are talking about they'll take a bullet for him and vote for him if he's in prison? Like, was our lives, I mean, people are making it sound like under Biden, you're finishing off your dog because you can't afford food and you were living in a mansion under Trump. What was going on between 2017 and 2021 in America that was so great that people do have this strong loyalty you're talking about?
I think it was him calling out BS and him calling out corruption that most of us knew existed but never knew how bad it was. I think Trump really brought to light a lot of issues that we are facing in this country. The number one being the illegal immigration, which is really, a lot of left-leaning people want to deny that there's an issue, but you can't deny it. I mean, the amount of money and resources that we're investing in trying to home these guys up in hotels. Go look at New York, for example. They have a hotel the manager at the hotel literally just came out and said about how they signed like a 2.7.
Let's take what you said and real quick in the comments. This comment is not it. I noticed it. I want to point it out. Zayda Star says, "Now I'm just mad." Maybe some folks are supporting Trump because they just pissed off. But what you're talking about, he called out things. Trump promised to drain the swamp, not tell us the swamp existed. Pointing things out, as you talked about, doesn't change my life at all. If you come and point out that I got roaches in my house or that the foundation is no good, if you're not going to help me fix the foundation, pointing it out, I mean, he promised to drain the swamp. Did we lower the bar?
You know, I don't think he realized how hard it would be to drain. He spoke on a lot of things that he couldn't hold his weight because he did. Like, I don't think Trump realized how difficult it is to fix a lot of these issues because you really have to come together as a country when you're in the Congress, Senate, and President seat to come together, to create bills, to pass bills, to make new law. You know what I'm saying?
So part two, let's take that. Let's take that. Part two, you said that he didn't realize it, but now he realizes you got to come together to get this stuff done. Let's say Trump part two starting next year. Do you think he would be the president that would bring us together, bring Congress and Senate together to get this stuff accomplished? Do you see him as a unifier to get that done?
To be honest with you, I wasn't opposed. I didn't think Biden would be that bad because I thought Biden would be able to do that. I really thought that Biden would be able to bring both sides back together. I voted for Trump, but I wasn't opposed if Biden, I didn't feel threatened if Biden became president.
Okay.
I didn't realize how, because I used to do flyway security, so I've been around Biden in person before. I've spoke to him before and interacted with him. Dude, what you see on TV is not.
Yeah, wait, hold on. I get that you're disgusted with the performance of Biden. I'm fine. We're talking about Trump, though. Part two: Can he get the unity you suggested that's necessary to get the job done?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't think there's so much division in this country. I don't know. Because the Democrats, I don't think, would be willing to budge because of how much hate they have for him.
Do you see the Democrats as having blind hatred for Trump, even though he's trying to reach out and befriend them, and they're just blindly hating him? Do you see Trump reaching out at all, and they just have this undying hatred towards him?
No, because I think Trump's stubborn, and I think it's either my way or the highway when it comes to him. I think he's just stuck in his way. And that's a problem with older people. I mean, that's the one thing you got. I mean, think about your dad. Think about, I can speak for my dad because I know my dad. I know my grandfather. And, the older you get, the more stubborn and stuck in your way you get. And I think that's the issue when you start having all these old people in higher positions is they're not open-minded. I feel like they've been doing the job for so long that they think they know the best answer for everything. So, I don't know. I mean, with all the young people that we're getting in there, I thought it would change. But, dude, honestly, there's just so much division. I don't know. I don't think Trump would be able to.
All right, fair enough. All right, I do appreciate you coming on. Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you for that subscription, by the way. Anytime.
I just want to say, man, I've been watching you for the last, I come in your live here periodically. I've been watching you for the last week. I appreciate you. I appreciate you give both sides their time to talk. You're very open, and I appreciate you understanding things on both sides, because sometimes you come on here and you see people on the right and left. Nope, you're wrong. This is what it is. And you can't talk about anything. You know what I'm saying? It just becomes a screaming match. You have been very open and honest with people. I can tell there's a lot of things that you agree with on both sides. The only difference between you and me is you lean more left than I do. You know what I'm saying?
It's all, and I do appreciate that, man. I definitely appreciate that. That definitely sets my Thursday off right. Come on back. You know what I always say. Good talk. Absolute thanks for that subscription.
All right, brother. Take it easy. Have a great day.
You too. All right, looking in the comments, and Tammy, thank you. Annie, appreciate that. The laser eyes. Jennifer, thank you. God damn, appreciate that. A little something. Show your boy some love. 1,000 of you folks in here, so tap the screen. Let's get it up to around 50,000 on the likes. Program is, always will remain. I say it every time. Yeah! Dot with the hat and mustache. Shout out to you. Much love. Program is always will remain MAGA friendly. In honor of what my last caller said, if you enjoy civilized dialogue, both sides of the aisle, Chris D with the snowman, let's go. If you enjoy civilized dialogue, both sides of the aisle, without any concern of the host trying to censor, limit, or ban your time in any way, you're in the right place. We allow folks to speak. The fact that you may disagree with somebody in the comments or even yours truly does not mean a damn thing. We let you speak. Look it in the comments real quick. Weldon stated, hey, handsome, of course Trump didn't think it was be so hard. The dude doesn't know shit about. The grammar is a little bit off, maybe a typo, but you're basically saying what Obama stated. Obama came out and said, it's easy. This is when he said this in 2016 when Trump was still running. It's easy to promise a lot of stuff, but when you actually have to deliver it, you're going to find out how hard it is. Obama stated that when Trump was still running for office. He made it clear this guy's promising a bunch of shit. There's no way he going to get this stuff done. Obama came out and said that. People refer to Obama as not knowing what the hell he was talking about. But those same folks are now openly stating, like my last caller suggested, my last caller is clearly MAGA. A lot of my callers are. Nothing wrong with that, but he's clearly stating Trump didn't realize the swamp was this deep, or you're gonna get this much resistance, or they're gonna. If you know politics, you know you're not just gonna come in here and it's gonna be a cakewalk. Did he not see on the open floor someone tell Obama, my main goal is to make you a one-term president? But Trump thought he was going to get in there and have love from day one. I don't know. Looking in the comments, your guests so far seem to understand logic and have a brain. I see others that are still in second grade. Meg, be nice to the guests. Going to the box. Jeremy Harkness, 220. Trump in the 14th Amendment. Any violations? What say you? Jeremy, good afternoon.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much at all. 14th Amendment, do you see any potential violations from President Trump of said amendment?
Well, here's how I kind of look at this situation. Even with past individuals that were put through the judicial system about January 6th offenses, no one was committed of an insurrectionist act. There was no, all of them were like side offenses that were maybe related or kind of insurrectionist-like, but nothing that like pinpointed directly to insurrection specifically. So for me, it's kind of a situation where I look at the whole evidence here and kind of digest things and go, is this really just a ploy to discredit Trump as much as possible with moderates and left-leaning individuals, and whether it sticks against the wall, it doesn't matter, because the purpose isn't to necessarily find him guilty of anything. It's just to add enough reasonable doubt in people's mind to say, hey, this guy is involved in January 6th as a promoted insurrectionist. I don't think the 14th Amendment has any bearing on what they're trying to do now, other than, like I said, just discredit Trump as a whole. So how do you feel about the fact, I pointed this out earlier, I don't know if you were listening in, but in the 14th Amendment, in this particular article that's in question, it does say in the actual language, if you gave aid or comfort to any of the enemies of the United States, which we know the leader of the Proud Boys and the leader of the Oath Keepers, these folks are being charged with sedition. So they actually have been charged with the actual crime. And if President Trump is suggesting he would pardon them if he is reelected, do you see that as giving aid or comfort to one of our nation's enemies? I would have to look at the situation for what it is. If he were to pardon and find out what the reasoning behind the pardon is, there's a lot of individuals, like, for example, Pelosi's daughter was filmed. There's film of Pelosi's daughter walking around the Capitol building as a civilian. She wasn't there as Mama Pelosi, daughter Pelosi. I have access to the Capitol building as a privileged family member of someone that's in the House. She was walking around just as a normal bystander filming.
But keep in mind, I'll let you continue, but keep in mind, when we talk about the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers charged with sedition, this goes way beyond what they did on January 6th. They were in planning stages. There's a lot behind the scenes. I don't think Nancy Pelosi's, the evidence you're talking about shows she was, on walkie-talkie, supplying people with equipment, talking with upper members of the Trump administration. They are in jail for sedition with a hell of a lot more than what they just did on that day.
In order for me to give an educated opinion on whether or not these individuals that are being charged with sedition, I'd have to look at the case. For me, like I said, again, for me, this is how you nip the January 6th situation in the bud real quick. I've seen video. We've all seen, I think a majority of us have seen video of, especially after we have the new Speaker of the House that has released all the video from January 6th. I think we've all seen police officers
being let in,
letting people in. I think what you do is you summon those officers and say, who gave you the direction to open those gates? That settles all this. Because if it came from someone on the left, we know that this was maybe a planned. I'm not saying it was planned per se. I'm saying there's a lot of legitimate video evidence out there that shows that this could have been something that was planned by someone. I'm not saying the left or right or whatever the case may be, but it does look like an operation that wasn't just spontaneous all the way across the board. This looks like officers were shaking people's hands as they were going through. They weren't really, if I as an individual were trying to go into the Capitol like on January the 4th, and let's say I started to act even rowdy out in the halls, I would have security all over me. How is it that they knew that this Trump rally was going to happen, and we have just minimal
I got two I guess responses for that, and I'll let you give your opinion on it. I think that one or two things happened. One, the cops were clearly outnumbered, so resisting anybody's entry could result in you getting your ass kicked, such as the African-American gentleman that's running up the stairs with an asp or a baton in his hand while he's being chased. You're so greatly outnumbered that if you fight any of these folks, so it's possible they let them in out of fear. But that's not my only suggestion. My other suggestion is we know a hell of a lot of LEOs, law enforcement, lean right because the Democrats are so critical of law enforcement. It would not surprise me or probably any of you if a lot of the officers there that day believed that the protesters were fighting the good fight and was actually sympathetic to them and let them in. Now, they should be charged, but there's no denying that their radios, while they're letting in QAnon Shaman and letting them walk, their radios are clearly buzzing with people making it clear we're being overrun. So there's no denying those cops, I agree with you, should be brought in to at least testify what the hell they were doing. I think they're just trying to limit it to Trump and Trump supporters and exclude those cops. But yeah, I agree with you. They should have to answer questions.
I think that you made a really good point in the fact that, like you were saying, if they were apologists, let's just go down that path. Let's say hypothetically, which is possible. Let's say they were apologists for the cause and they believe that what the protesters were doing were just. The thirst from the left to want to prosecute anybody involved, if that were true, you would have seen the police being put up for charges because there is such a deep thirst to prosecute, and that's low-hanging fruit. You think you would start with the cops to prove something and say, we know you're an apologist, a MAGA apologist or a Trump apologist or whatever the case may be, that would be the first direction you go to set a standard. But that wasn't the case. So that says to me that this is the evidence that we're talking about. Like I said, you make a really good point in that fact. But the counter response to that is they've wanted to indict everybody and anybody they can get their hands on to prove a point. Why wouldn't you start with the police?
Because that ain't where they are more focused on getting the leader, which they think is Trump or Steve Bannon or Flynn. I agree. It looks biased as hell. Also notice folks on the right are not trying to hold those cops accountable either. They're asking questions in defense of Trump, but folks on the right are not looking for accountability from them cops either. Neither side. Both sides are protecting the cops. They should be called in. Right now, Congress is controlled by the right. They have the power to summon those cops in right now and ask them, who told you? You're showing the video of them letting people in, as you stated. Subpoena them to come in and demand they explain it. The right could do that. They just don't like the possibility that the answer they give may not fit the narrative that the liberals orchestrated this. So the right is not calling them in either, even though they have control of Congress.
Correct. No, I agree. I think the biggest worrisome, I'm 43 years old. It's so bizarre for me to see where this country is spun, even in my short 43 years of life of growing up. My grandparents, my aunts, my uncles would never speak of, we're left driven, we're right driven. When you spoke politics, you didn't admit whether you're Republican or Democrat. We've gotten to a place now in this country to where everything's identity driven, whether it's sexualized with homosexuality or it's our political state, and all of it melds together and it divides us ultimately. So it is interesting that the right isn't coming after the police. And I think if we really knew as a country the truth behind everything is, it might shock us that really they're just, the left and the right are just two wings of the same bird.
I think that there's certainly some issues there that I would agree with. I mean, we know that they hang out together and things like that. But do you think if we're so divided like this, do you, like what I asked the last caller, do you see maybe Trump as being a better choice to get us back united?
I think Trump would be capable of doing so, but I think the evidence from there's people on the left that just, if they were to admit that, like, let's say the border, I think we all can admit, whether you're on the left or the right, the border is a mess right now. I mean, it's an absolute mess.
True.
And I would lay that in the lap of Biden. It wasn't like that. And that's not me being a MAGA supporter. That's me just being unbiasedly observant of the situation going on. Now, the problem is that you have is if, like, you had a Pelosi or you had someone, a Schumer that was prominent on the left, say, hey, we messed up on this issue, Trump was right, it's just giving him way too much ammo that they don't want to give him. So I think it's impossible, honestly, for him to be in a situation where he can be a unifier.
Well, even if you believe it's impossible, do you see where he is at least trying to make an effort to unite us, and the Democrats are just so hateful they're not listening? Do you see Trump at least trying to unite the country?
You know, I think I do. And I think similar to the last caller, I think Trump, I would compare it to this. I played college basketball. I played high school basketball. I've always been involved in sports. I've worked for I'm a self-employed individual, but I've been contracted with different bosses, if you want to call them that. Okay. I don't like all of them. I don't like all those people necessarily all the time. But as I look back, and some of the rough edges that they had, I understand why they did what they did. And I think Trump is a lot like that. You're going to have to look past his rough edges and you're going to. So
what do you think he's doing? You said you do believe he's trying. Give me some examples of some things you think that Trump is doing to try to unite the country.
Well, he as president or currently or either? Either one. To me, if you look at pre-presidency with Trump, like just for an example of people calling him racist, if you look at pre-presidential Trump, like even Democratic Trump, the black community really supported and embraced him. There's a lot of rappers that have, athletes that have, a lot of actors that have in the past on the African-American side that really embraced Trump.
But you gotta admit, when Trump was a Democrat or hanging around the African-American community, the likes of Al Sharpton, Oprah Winfrey, and Jesse Jackson, he wasn't saying the type of things he's saying now. He's changed the way he is. Just like you mentioned, he used to say he's a Democrat. He's not going to say that now. He's saying all kinds of negative things about the same people he used to hang around back then. So the point I'm trying to make is he changed but we seem baffled that the community used to hang around changed on him. He's not the same guy.
No, he's not, and a lot of us do change. I mean, if you look at the spectrum of politics, how people lean. When you're younger, you usually tend to lean more liberal, and as you get older, sometimes people tend to drift more conservatively.
Right.
I mean, that's just a natural progression of life. He's almost what is he?
Almost 80. He's almost 80.
So I don't know exactly. There was whispers of Trump running for president. Even
yeah.
I remember Oprah interviewing him in the early 90s.
But give me examples of what he did. What you think he's doing to try to unify the country?
I feel that some of the actions that he put forth with leniency, I can't remember his crime bill. It helped release a lot of prisoners that were in prison for years for minor drug offenses, and a lot of them happened to be African American, and it did help those people reestablish themselves back in the community. He also did a lot as president to encourage, especially like around a lot of urban areas, for minority groups to have access to small business funds to be able to establish and grow and open small businesses. I mean, the unemployment rate, with not just in general, unemployment rate when Trump was in office was low, the lowest ever amongst all minorities. The largest number of single women homeowners increased by almost 3 times the amount that it was ever in history. I mean, these are all stats that I don't think that those stats are trying to oppress women or minorities. Those are things that uplifted them, and just by those actions alone, I think you're trying to unify.
Okay. All right. I see a lot of folks in the comment section disagreeing with you, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to simply say, if he did what you're saying and he didn't tweet, we wasn't on the internet, I think you probably have a winner. I think he'd probably still be on his second term. But I do got to move it on, Jeremy. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, man.
Always a pleasure. All right, moving the program on. They have it on video. Trump is helping all blacks and women. Well, Tiger Tell 105, if you believe that Trump is helping all blacks and helping all women, then we need to convince women and blacks that he's helping them out. You're doing all this stuff for people, and the people don't think you're doing shit. So Trump has a lot of rallies. He's not like Biden. Trump is always patting himself on the back. There has got to be a reason why the folks that he is supposedly helping out don't agree with that. They don't agree with it. Like I said, I went to a Trump rally about a couple months ago. I think it was maybe 10 of us, 10 blacks. Now, maybe there's another 10 that I didn't see. I'm not going to pretend like I saw everybody. Let's say it was 20 that I didn't see. There was 3,000 people there. It is that rare to see African Americans at a Trump gathering. If you're doing all this for them, get the message out. Get the message out better than you're doing. Looking in the comments, it's rigged. Everything's rigged. He paid 9 of them to be there. Yikes. I was there and the other 9 were being paid to attend. Oh my God, bless your heart. CNN leaning left, Fox leaning right. Why should journalism lean any direction? It didn't used to be that way. It really didn't. I'm a huge O'Reilly fan. I started watching Bill O'Reilly back in probably 2000. And he's kind of like the father of going from journalism to commentary. Made a fortune doing it. And a lot of folks have picked up like that. And at the end of the day, a news network makes its money from ratings. People don't want to see unbiased news. They tell you that shit. But everybody likes watching people say what they agree with. As my last caller was talking about. You know, he opened his eyes and showed us the border was screwed up or this or that. People like hearing commentary, not journalism. So as a result, news networks started being biased because that's what people want to watch. You can watch your nightly news, your ABC, CBS, NBC affiliate networks, 10 p.m. if you're in the Central. It's generally at 11 o'clock, I think the news comes on in your local areas if you're on the East or West Coast. That's unbiased news. That'll never get the ratings of a Sean Hannity or a Rachel Maddow. Folks want the commentary. That's just the way it is. I'm a big Chris Cuomo fan. Folks want the commentary. That's why news is biased. That's what you want. Looking in the box, we'll keep it moving. 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment. Team Cawthorn. Subscriber. Definitely got to go to Team Cawthorn. The likelihood that Trump violated the 14th Amendment. What say you?
Hey man, I'm sorry. I guess I must have made a mistake and requested.
All right, well, I do. Fair enough. I'll go ahead and drop you. Thanks for the subscription. Anytime you do want to come in, come on through. All right, going back, he was smart. He stayed home. Your mom. I like that. My mom's passed away, so it ain't mine, but who stayed home? Who stayed home? What are you talking about? 14th Amendment does not apply. What did that say? 14th Amendment does not apply to Trump. SCOTUS will overturn. Well, and I'll go back to the box, but just want to say this real quick. A lot of folks are suggesting, how could Trump be accused of violating the 14th Amendment when he hasn't been convicted of it? Or as the lower court judge in Colorado stated in her judgment, that she believed Trump did violate the 14th Amendment, but she don't believe the language applies to the president. The Supreme Court in Colorado, as that case climbed the ladder, disagrees with her that it doesn't apply to the president, but they do agree with her in suggesting that he did violate it, 4-3 majority. Real quick, before I go to the box, here is the language, because I read this earlier when there was only 100 of you folks in here. Tap the screen, get your point up to 70,000, 900 plus of you in here. No person, this is the provision of the 14th Amendment, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such a disability. Now, the main problem I keep pointing out, first of all, nowhere in that verbiage, and this is on congress.gov. I didn't get that from CNN, MSNBC, or Fox. That is on congress.gov. That's on their very website. Nowhere in that language does it talk about the individual needing to be convicted or even charged of the crime. A lot of folks are saying, well, Trump didn't get charged with this. How could they do it? That's not in the language. The other issue, aiding and abetting, that whole issue about giving aid or comfort to the enemies. I mentioned that several times, whereas the leader of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers have been indeed charged with sedition. They've been charged and convicted of that crime and are now currently sitting in prison for it. So if you aid or comfort one of them, they are the enemies thereof. That part of the language that's in the 14th Amendment. Trump talked about pardoning them, made this January 6th. Trump has been working with these folks, whether you agree or disagree. He's doing rally speaking positively of them. Is that aiding and comforting them? That's up for a judge to decide. He ain't saying nothing negative about them. Didn't he call them hostages? So it's up to the judge to decide, is he aiding and comforting these folks by promising to pardon them? Last question I would ask you folks before I go back to the box. How do you think the leader of the Proud Boys or Oath Keepers feel their life might change if Trump gets reelected? Do you think that they're expecting him to aid or comfort them if he gets back in office? Do you think they'll let him? Do you think Trump would interfere with their sentence in any way? Would he let him sit in 20 years? I think one got sentenced to 22 years. The other got 18 years. Do you think they feel like, well, damn, if Trump gets elected, it ain't going to make no difference. We're going to still have to spend all this time in here. Going back to the box. We'll keep it moving with comedy. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. 14th Amendment. Comedy. Good afternoon. Okay, okay. Either he came up by mistake or whatever. Very loud background. Have you watched the video of Capitol Police letting people in and escorting them? We just did a long conversation about that. You must be just tuning in. We just talked about that. Both McCarthy released a video, I think it was earlier. Tucker Carlson ran that video, and then the current Speaker of the House is, yeah, we've seen the videos of that. Going back to the box, Truth is Irony. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. 14th Amendment, Truth. Good afternoon.
What's up, man? What's going on?
Not much at all. Did our commander-in-chief, while serving this country, act in violation of the 14th Amendment, as act of insurrection? Did you see anything like that on January 6th?
Absolutely.
Really?
And I'll tell you what it was. For 3 hours, the man sat and did nothing while the Capitol building of the United States was being attacked. We all saw it from our living rooms in 4K. We all saw it happen. And the president of the United States did nothing. And I don't care if people are saying, well, he told Nancy Pelosi to beef up security. Doesn't matter. While that is actually happening, he could have made calls. He could have done something. And they say, well, Nancy Pelosi was in charge, which is nonsense. She's not. But how do you not consider it aiding and abetting when you have the power to call and get reinforcements for those officers who over 100 of them were either hospitalized or injured in that protest / riot / insurrection /
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. You're presenting a different point. I think that's an interesting argument. Whereas you're saying by allowing them to continue the mayhem, that alone is aiding and abetting them. You could stop this, and you're choosing to do nothing. So you are doing something that works in their behalf, which is allowing them to fester. I haven't heard that presented yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Because and the proof is in his own statement. Because when he finally did come out and say something, it stopped. They went home. When he told them how much he loved them, and you know how proud of them he was, or how great they were, or whatever he said, they stopped. So if he did that 3 hours later, he could have done it 15 minutes after it started. He could have did it a half an hour after it started.
So it almost sounds like you're trying to suggest that he actually wanted this to happen.
I believe he absolutely knew that it was going to happen, and part of the plan was for it to happen so that they could, so he could call martial law and then stop the proceeding of the vote that would have that eventually did take place, whereas he was voted out and Biden was
so then then what if you're saying, so what you're saying, that full circle, that is an insurrection. So what do you think in regards to the federal SCOTUS, federal Supreme Court? They're going to be deciding this right after New Year's. I mean, I think January 4th, January 5th, do you think they're going to undo what Colorado did? I mean, 6-3 majority. Do you think they'll see it like you do? Or do you think they will toss out what Colorado did?
Well, I think that it's going to come down to Coney Barrett, Kavanaugh, and Justice John Roberts, because Alito and Clarence Thomas are definitely going to vote in Trump's favor. The three, liberal or Democrat justices are going to vote the way that they vote.
Right.
And Judge Gorsuch was part of his argument was used in the legal filing. So he looks like an idiot if he votes against it.
Well, wait. When you say he stated one way, if he votes the other way, he looks like an idiot. Look, with all due respect, they all suggested they weren't going to reevaluate Roe v. Wade, and they clearly did that. So they don't mind backtracking or being hypocritical.
That is true. That is true. But Gorsuch, you know what? There, you got a point there. So,
Yeah.
but I would think that, you know, if he's, you know what? That's a great point. I can't even argue that.
I appreciate the effort. I definitely appreciate the effort, though. I mean, but
But I would assume if you have any sort of legal integrity, when you write an opinion, you won't flip it. I mean, none of those people wrote the Roe versus Wade opinions, whatever.
Right.
So, but Gorsuch did actually write an opinion that the Colorado people that you know filed suit in Colorado, they actually used his opinion in part of their summary or whatever you call it. So for him to then turn around and vote against it would you know it'd be hard.
let me ask you this, 'cause you mentioned about Trump not doing anything for a few hours. In the comments, several people, MA is saying this also. Pelosi was in charge. The FBI had informants that let those people in. What do you do with that?
So okay, so that is absolutely ridiculous. They had the Ray in front of Congress, and he denied that. There's please don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. They'll go for anything. And I'm sorry, but I got to get this off my chest. The people that still support Donald Trump, in my opinion, they are remedial. They are.
Why do you wait a minute? That's horrible. Why do you say they're remedial? It's funny as hell too, but why do you say that?
Because if with all of the evidence that has come to light, all of the things that we know that Donald Trump has done and that the MAGA supporters have done, in order to still support this man, there has to be some sort of...
Well, wait a minute. Look, protecting the sanctity of life, they favor the economy. They have their opinion about LGBT moving too far into our... They have their reasoning. You can vote for Trump and not be remedial. You don't see anything that...
No. Let me tell you, because those things that you mentioned, first of all, the protecting the sanctity of life, right? Okay.
Right.
If you can't tell me that you're pro-life, but you side with the Republicans who are taking away free lunch for kids in poor areas. You can't say you're pro-life if you're taking away the health care for people who are less fortunate than most when it comes to prenatal care and what have you. You can't tell me that you're pro-life if you argue for the fetus, but as soon as the baby's born, you throw them in the garbage.
Damn.
That to me is not.
All right, what about the second? Let's go down the list, okay? I'm a fan of the Second Amendment. Let's say, for instance, a voter says, I'm a fan of the Second Amendment. I don't want my rights infringed on in any way, fashion, or form. Should they go liberal or Republican, Trump or Biden?
So here's the thing. What the misinformation is that Democrats are trying to take away Second Amendment rights. There was a...
You believe that?
Obama's presidency. No, I don't believe that.
No. You believe that the liberals are not trying to interfere with Second Amendment rights in any way, fashion, or form?
No, they're not trying to take away your guns. What they are trying to make it harder for people who would use those guns to kill children, unalive children, and do mass unalivings.
So what do you think?
For those people who are mentally ill or challenged or have a history of these abusive relationships or whatever, in order for them to not Mr. and Mrs. John P.
Wait a minute, hold on. Let me real quick, folks. Tap the screen. We might be to get 80 or 90,000 if you guys let your thumbs not be lazy. Hell, 100,000 likes would be great too. But tap the screen. What do you think Beto O'Rourke meant when he said, "You're damn right, we're going to take away your AR-15s"? What did that mean to you?
I don't think it matters because he's not in public office right now.
He's running again, though. He suggested he may run again, and he had a hell of a lot of Democratic support.
He ran twice, to my knowledge, and lost. So I think if somebody that was in a position of power, like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, or Democratic chair, and or the
I don't. I think you. And by the way, mother of an angel. Love the name, mother of an angel son. Thank you for that, Swan. That was beautiful. I think you're playing word semantics, and I lean left. But the notion that the liberals are not trying to take away guns, when you look in a lot of liberal cities, they have all these strict gun laws where just simply getting a firearms permit used to be quite difficult in my hometown of Chicago. You don't see the liberals. You see the liberals as viewing the Second Amendment as, for the most part, for law-abiding, sane gun owners, you see them viewing it just like the Republicans do. They don't want to interfere with it at all. If you're law-abiding and have no history of mental illness.
No. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that the entire Democratic Party is not for, because there's an argument to be made about restricting the purchase of assault weapons, if so-called assault weapons, the AR-15s, the weapons of choice of mass unalivers. Those weapons, and it's actually proven that when those guns were when the purchase of those guns were banned, that mass unalivings actually.
Yeah, wait. You're. And by the way, Israel. Thank you, Israel, for the snowman. Let me make something clear. I lean left, so I'm here. I'm just simply saying, even if what you're saying is true, the liberals do want to place limits on gun ownership. Even if the numbers come down to deaths, if everything you're saying is true, I'm not arguing with that. I'm just simply saying, if you are a gun owner and you don't want your rights restricted at all, you're telling me you should vote Democrat?
Well, this is what I'm going to say about that. And then if you have another question for me, I'd be glad to answer it. This is what I'm going to say about that. And there comes a time when you have to kind of introspectively look at yourself and say, well, wow, is it more important that I have this toy, now, for lack of a better word, or this weapon that I use for recreational purposes? Is it more important that I have that, or is it more important that we...
Wait a minute. What was that? Hold on. I gotta give credit for somebody that just sent me a fucking...
That was awesome. It looked like some kind of dinosaur. That was pretty cool.
Thank you. I've never seen that. But continue your point. That threw me off, mother of eight. Wow. Go ahead.
That was pretty cool. I saw that too. That was pretty cool.
Wow. Go ahead.
But my point is, you can't put the lives of children beneath your ability to own a weapon that should be used for recreational purposes, because unless you're in Afghanistan or Iraq or something, why do you need an AK-47 or an AR-15? I don't think it's really necessary. You don't hunt with that weapon, because if you hunt with that weapon, you shoot a deer, there's nothing left of the...
I've seen, listen, like I said, I don't have a problem admitting I tend to lean left politically, but I've watched a hell of a lot of hunting videos for feral hogs on people's land where they're using those guns effectively. I've seen folks killing coyotes with them. So I don't know if I totally agree with you in saying that this gun can only be used as a measure of military. I do believe there are some provisions for regular citizens. I mean, by the way, if you get on the wrong side of the police, they'll shoot your ass with an AR-15 too. So there are citizens using these guns for self-defense.
Oh, okay. So now we're gonna make the point that we need AR-15 so we can fight against the police. Is that
I'm not sure. Listen, I'm not a big fan of some of this stuff, but I'm just simply saying I'm not going to ignore the fact that some folks on the right do have valid points. And then, of course, we haven't even gotten into staving off tyranny and some of these other things people believe in, where a pistol ain't going to help you out. We could discuss that, but the whole point I was trying to make is there are legitimate reasons to vote right and left for Trump or Biden. Depends on how you feel about different things. If you got money invested in big oil and you know Biden is going towards alternative energy, why would you vote for Biden? I mean, it could cost you a fortune. There's a lot of legitimate reasons to vote for Trump.
No. I get that. I totally agree that there could be, reasoning why you would go for those policies. But you can't give me a good reason why Donald Trump has to be the representative for you to achieve those goals. There has to be somebody else with less baggage, without 91 indictments and four indictments, 91 felony charges. There has to be somebody in your party that can represent you that does not have that same baggage.
Fair point. And there's some folks who would say the same thing about our party with an 81-year-old guy that's fallen. I mean, people say it on both sides, but I got to move it on, Truth. Appreciate you coming in.
Let me just close with one thing.
Real quick, go ahead.
Really quickly. I get it. Joe Biden is 81, but the man has been effective in his presidency. He's been very effective. Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate you.
Fair enough. Appreciate that, Truth. Always a pleasure. Looking in the comments. So he's guilty until proven innocent. And that would be unfair, SS Blazer. But you know, so I'll say this real quick. And I do appreciate you folks tapping the screen. We're almost at 100,000. Show your boy some love. 95,000. That's good shit. I do appreciate that. 1,000 of you in here, we can easily make that happen. In regards to the notion that Trump is guilty until proven innocent, which is exactly backwards to the Constitution, and that's wrong as hell. However, remember President Trump said if you plead the fifth, means you work for the mob, you got something to hide. I hate to say it, but it's hard to defend Trump when he's doing the same thing to other people. Hillary Clinton has never been convicted of anything, yet he was calling for her to be locked up. Dakota with the boat by the dock, thank you. So if you're going to defend President Trump's rights and suggest you can't hold him guilty before he has his day in court, but you were one of the individuals yelling to lock Hillary Clinton up, you're being hypocritical. She didn't have her day in court either. You have to make this fair, folks. That's what it's all about. Crystal B, you guys are awesome today. Is it Christmas early? Crystal, thank you for that merry-go-round. So at the end of the day, I understand that no man should be viewed as guilty until proven innocent. But unfortunately, because Trump has been knee-deep into doing that to other people, he kind of makes a bad messenger for that. If you plead the fifth, it means you work for the mob? Really? Isn't that your constitutional right to plead the fifth? Then why is he saying you work for the mob? So I just want to point that out. It shouldn't be a case where you're defending someone and then people can point to other people that are victims of him doing that to them too. Same thing with Hillary Clinton. Lock her up, lock her up, lock her up for what? You're not even investigating her. Trump never had Congress even call Hillary Clinton in to talk to her. So why are you letting people yell, lock her up? She's not going to jail. She's not even been indicted. Guilty until proven innocent. Remember that. Anyhow, I do appreciate you folks tuning in. You already know what this is. It's a lunch break live. It is always an absolute pleasure to have you folks here. Monday through Friday, this is what we do. If you enjoy civilized dialogue, both sides of the aisle without any issue of the host limiting your time, trying to dictate what you say or shortening your speech, you don't ever have to worry about that here. Free speech always reigns supreme. So feel free to subscribe to the program, follow the program. You know what we do. Anyhow, it's your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. YouTube, and I see that thank you on TikTok. Appreciate you folks tuning in as well. Looks like a few more of you folks are starting to tune in as the day goes on. So as the days go on, rather. So I do appreciate that. And I will start following your comments and responding to them a bit more as the audience is growing on that side. It's your boy Tim. I'll see you tomorrow.